Okay, this would be video 1 of a 3-part series of videos explaining servo controls. This will be using an emulation. So I'll be using a RSLogix emulator 5000 chassis, and I'll be using version 20. So what I do to start with is I selected my processor type, which is the emulator, version 20. Named it servo controls. I'm using slot 0 as I am in my virtual chassis. Then I'll make my program. So at this point, the first thing I like to do is under my task, my main task, I change it to, in properties, I change it to a periodic task. And for this sake, I will go ahead and, for the sake of this training, I'll go ahead and put it at 25 milliseconds. And that will make my task scan every 25 milliseconds and with a priority. Now, generally speaking, I like to change my priorities and have this like a higher priority, say like a 4 or something if it's motion. And you can see all that down here in the bottom. Now, the next thing I like to do is, or that needs to be done, is go into controller properties, and under date and time, you want to enable time synchronization. Being it is a motion processor that's going to be controlling any kind of motion. If this is the lead program that's going to be controlling all the motion, then the time or enable time synchronization has to be checked. And then what I'd like to do too, so I'll go ahead and click apply on that, and then in advanced I like to change, I have no continuous task right here, so during unused system overhead time slice, I change it from run continuous task to reserve for system task or communications. And I do that because, again, I don't have any periodic task. I don't have any continuous tasks. I have periodic. And then I go ahead and apply that. Then the next feature I'll do is add a motion group. Click create. So that was done under motion groups. Then you have to add your motion group itself. Then this is a virtual system, so that means I have no hardware whatsoever. So what I'm going to be doing, instead of adding a servo controller or a servo drive, I'll be adding a virtual axis. So I'll name this virtual axis 1. Then I'll have another one. I'll add another one. So virtual axis 2. And then let's add a third one. So virtual axis 3. Let's make sure we keep all of them the same. Okay, so now we have 3 virtual axes. Now, in the motion group, we have virtual axis 1, virtual axis 2, virtual axis 3. Normally, you would have all these associated with controllers in your I/O configuration. In your I/O configuration, in this instance, we only have the emulated processor because that is the only thing we're using. Our processor is emulated. There's no actual physical hardware involved. But normally you would have physical hardware, which you would come in the back plane and you would add new. And in add new, you would uncheck right here, go to motion, and then you select the motion card that you want to communicate through. Now there's a 16 axis motion card, there's an 8 action motion card, there's a 3. You know, that it really depends on how big your system is. In version 20 or below, generally everybody uses a Servo. Servo is a fiber optic system. It uses light emitting system, so that communicates through fiber optics through this card. Say for instance you had a 16 axis system, and then you selected this card, then you would say Servo 1, or you know, that's just a general name, just to name it something. And then you could set all your baud rates. You could set the, you know, whatever the data rates you wanted. The, you know, high transmitting, low transmitting. You could set, you know, the interface. So basically, you know, you're keying, make sure it's compatible. Of course, we're not going to do that. I just wanted to show you that. Now so I'll delete it because I'm not actually using it. Now, in some of the newer versions, Rockwell's went away from Servo and they went to Ethernet, which is called SIP motion. In SIP motion, it is all communicated through Ethernet, and that is in versions, generally in like the higher versions, 27. I believe they are trying to come back with, they're going to try to bring back Servo in the higher versions, like 30 or maybe above, because of the fact that there's a lot of Servo in the industry, and it's not really optional to make everybody change over to a Ethernet platform when the IT structure behind it is really in depth, with static switches and that type of devices and stuff. So for this, the sake of this, what we're going to do is, now we have our axis done. Say if we had a card down here, the way we have to do, what I'd like to bring up now is the motion group properties. And in the motion group properties, you have an attribute, which is the course rate update time, and you have auto tag update. You can select to do disable auto tag update, but everybody always uses auto enable update. They leave it enabled so that all the tags from all the axes down here update automatically depending on this course rate. Now, this course rate is calculated by how many axes you have. The axes are calculated differently. So for instance, if you have a communication card, that would be 1 millisecond, and for every axis thereof, if it is a true hard, like a hardware axis, then it's 0.5. If it's a virtual axis, it is actually 1 millisecond. So the reason I had 3 axes here, 3 virtual axes, is at 2 milliseconds, this would not be a recommended setting. Not to say that this could not update within time, it would just not be recommended. So I will change my course rate update to 4 milliseconds and click apply. And the reason I'm doing that is because I have one axis here, 1 millisecond, 2 milliseconds, 3 milliseconds, and I give it a whole another millisecond to be in a safe zone, because if you cannot update within time, it will fault out. So with all this said, that shows you how to calculate your course rate update. Your course rate update cannot be changed if you are online. Notice I'm offline and I'm doing all my programming offline. You cannot do anything with a Servo as far as changing it or changing the attributes or anything online. Now there's another cool feature where you can take one of the axes or all the axes and then unassign them. Like say for instance you only wanted to use axis 2 and 3, and you wanted to unassign axis 1. Then you could click apply, and the only 2 that will run and even be acknowledged in the system is axis 2 and axis 3. Say there was something wrong with axis 1 and you were working on it, but it wasn't critical to the system running, then you could just simply go offline, unassign it, come back, download, get the other two running, and then as soon as you got it fixed, you could put it back in. So, but you could unassign, you could unassign all of them if you wanted to. So if we wanted to, we could have none of them in our actual motion group that's actually ready to run. But for the sake of this training, we're not going to do that. We're going to have all three. So at this point, we have our axis set up. We have our course rate update set up properly. We talked about timing, and we talked about periodic task and then the timing of the periodic task. We've set up the time synchronization. We've changed our overhead time slice stayed at 20, but we want to change what we do with our unused overhead time slice. We've changed that, and now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and download. So at this point we're in axis 0, so we download. Okay, so at this process, you can see that this is axis 1 is ready, axis 2 is ready, axis 3 is ready. Now what we'll do is, to understand this a little better, in the main program, we have main program is configured to have the main routine as the main. So what we'll do is, being that is the main routine, we'll come in here and we'll add another routine, and we'll call it Servo Controls, and then we'll come into the main routine and have a JSR, and we'll connect that JSR to our newly created routine, which is Servo Controls. We'll go ahead and do that. So what that's done is our main task is linked to our main program. Our main program is linked to main routine, and now with our JSR that we've just programmed, the main routine is linked to Servo Controls. So with all that said, this shows that all of our axes are in a ready state, we'll go ahead and conclude video 1 and show that this is the complete setup of how we want to do it as a virtual system. Now this will get, what we'll do in video 2 is actually show you, we'll do some motion axis on, some direct commands and stuff like that, and in video 3 we'll do some programming. So I just want to wrap this up as far as video 1 and just say that thank you for watching, and if you have any comments, please leave them below. And like I said, this is conclude video 1, and we'll have video 2 coming up soon. Thank you.